Order. Okay, do we have any citizen comments?
I have one, I believe you have one also?
Yep.
Okay. So Tammy Myers forwarded this email to me from Dawn Abbott from the Blue Lantern. So it says, "Hello Brenda, it is my understanding that it was at your request that the no overnight parking signs be taken down from Main Street. It is also my understanding that the city has no other parking monitoring policies in place to help control overnight parking yet, and are still considering other options. Since the signs have been taken down, the block where my business is has been full with overnight cars parked every night. Most of them are students, but of course other people living in the buildings on this block have taken advantage of it. Mostly these overnight parked cars sit there throughout the day unless the students need to run an errand. Then they get parked back in any other available spot on Main Street and then continue to sit since the 3-hour parking signs are not being enforced either. Without the no overnight parking signs, the police are unable to ticket parked cars overnight to help encourage the students to park in their designated lots at least overnight. This would keep their cars moved nightly off Main Street at least, and the block would have open parking on the street in the morning. I've mentioned many times before that my business is significantly down this year. Between Main Street being torn up all summer with road construction to now this, no parking for customers, which has been an ongoing problem from the first day I opened for business 11 years ago. As a struggling business owner, I am begging you to please tell the city that it is a mistake to take down the signs before any other parking control has been put in place. Please contact the city and request that the signs be put back up as quickly as possible. As a member of BDL and as a business directly impacted by this decision, I hope that you will be able to see it is best to put back up the no parking overnight signs until a more permanent solution is instated. Thank you for your time. Please let me know what you will be able to do about this. Dawn Abbott, Blue Lantern." And I would just like to comment, the signs that were taken down were not no parking overnight. They were signs that said no parking between 2:30 a.m. and 5 a.m. for street sweeping. And that's not when street sweeping occurs in the downtown corridor, and so they were an obsolete sign. Just as a FYI. And then I believe Wendy also has.
Yeah, so I have one addressed.
Elementary.
Oh, sorry, what?
Go.
Okay, addressed to all of us. As stakeholders of the Lewiston Business Improvement District, we are very concerned about the recent actions of beautiful downtown Lewiston and the Lewiston City Council. With the lack of progress in what the BID was intended to do from the beginning, we vote to prepare a petition of dissolution of the Business Improvement District as soon as possible, with termination to be 12/31/23. Please let us know if we can help in retaining the signatures in the petition of dissolution of the Business Improvement District. We hereby submit our votes to terminate the City of Lewiston Business Improvement District, Vicky and John Ross, Nikki Heights, and Mark Alexander.
Ooh, wow. I don't think they issue that to us. I think a petition such as that would go to the city clerk.
What was your comment, Katie?
They wouldn't turn a petition like that to dissolve the district to the board. They would turn that into the city clerk.
Is that what it was to solve the bid? Is that what the letter was for? Okay, thank you. I told you I don't hear well.
Wendy, would you forward that to me?
Yes, to you, yes. Yeah. Okay, any other
For
comment?
citizen comment?
That's all that I have, and all you guys have, right?
Yeah, well, thank you. I just say thank you, first of all, for allowing me to just share a word here and to attend. I'll be here for about 20 minutes. I want to comment briefly on the Blue Lantern. I've been down there visiting with her, and I'm going to actually go from here to there next, too. In terms of, and it's not to find fault anywhere, I've worked closely with Cindy Pemberton, and we're going to continue to do that, Andy Hansen and others, to make sure the students are doing what they're supposed to do. And then in terms of parking or other changes we may see downtown, we do have a new, what we call a community resource officer, or superhero for short. And this person is going to be changing how the city approaches code enforcement in some areas. So it's trying to get compliance, you know, and folks to just understand and educate and stuff like that. But there is an abatement side to that, so you will have to clean things up, you know, if you don't. So whether it's downtown or somewhere else, you know, weeds, site triangles, things like that. We actually met yesterday and talked about parking. So we have a new ticket book, I think is what they call it, that are being printed or about to be printed at Printcraft, and then that will allow us to issue tickets, under the new code changes we have. So the community resource officer will have that authority. They don't have to go to the courts. These are city matters, so it can come to City Hall. But those should be out and about soon. We recently learned within the last 2 weeks that we can chalk tires. I don't know if you heard that story, but for about a year we've been told we can no longer chalk tires because it was a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And so that was heard at the U.S. Supreme Court, and I think it was the Supreme Court, might have been. I better check that one. But nonetheless, we've now been told by our legal department that we can chalk tires, start chalking tires again, as long as you're not targeting, say, Dr. Orton's car. He's out there all the time. We're going to keep getting them. But if you're chalking all the cars on this block, we're doing an emphasis, let's say, on that block in front of the Blue Lantern. If you're chalking every vehicle there, then you're not violating the spirit of the law. Then you come back in 3 hours and do that. So we are looking at some different things, and we will. You'll start seeing that, soon. It's just getting everything geared up and put in place. But good things are coming.
Will that be a full-time position or just as it's a person, that person's available to patrol or to watch the downtown parking?
It's a full-time position, Monday through Friday, mostly Monday through Friday. The gentleman is Dave Goby, used to be one of our school resource officers here in town. And so I'm looking at also adding a part-time position during the busy times of the year, so weed time, stuff like that, to help him. And so he'll be out and about and doing that. It's the entire city, but he's under community development direction. And so the emphasis could change, so maybe during one time of the year, they're gonna focus on like site triangles, which is kind of what I want to do now, where we have a lot of intersections in town where the vegetation is so overgrown, you can't see and you might have an accident, these kind of things. Excuse me. So, or maybe he'll emphasize parking for a couple of weeks, not only downtown, but on the LC campus, where students are parking in the neighborhoods when they should have a sticker, these kind of things too. So I guess it's to be developed, and with Dave Goby's knowledge of the city, the code, and the issues and things like that, I think he'll do a great job of helping us put together some kind of an effective program. It still will be complaint driven, and along that line, we're looking at trying to at least move our technology into the 90s. I'm not an IT person, but our hope is that through whatever program we use, we have 2 or 3 at the city. It might even be one day where you could just pull up the app and you hit a button or whatever, and then it sends the message to him through some kind of workflow, like maybe he's got 3 things on his inbox and here's the location to go look at a site triangle or something like that, so we're trying to get the citizenry involved too, make it easy on them so they don't have to pick up the phone and call someone. You just do it on the app and there it is. And so our superhero's it just comes in the box. I got these things to work on, and he'll prioritize and do things, and then somehow through the system, they can track it, again, depending on what kind of a program we use. We have several citizens serve, cartograph, things like that, which I know nothing about. I can pronounce those words, but that's the idea, is to try to really make this more user-friendly. You're not going to be calling LPD anymore, so we're trying to get officers on the road doing what they should be doing instead of writing weed infractions, these kind of things, because we have limited resources and we're trying to get them to work on other priorities. So if it all works, I think it'd be a great program. We're going to get our public information officer involved quite a bit too, and really try to promote this thing and educate the public, so that if something happens to them, like somebody shows up all of a sudden telling them I got to trim weeds out on the corner, that's probably going to be a first for most of us. And you're going to be like, who are you now? And so we want them to understand that and accept it, rather than kind of beating people over the head. And then I'll just tell you real briefly, if we have someone who's non-compliant, say with, weeds or site triangles and stuff like that, the city can go in there and abate those conditions under state code, not city code, and charge for that. So, the idea is to get people to do it willingly up front. If they don't, then we're going to move into an abatement mode because we have to for public safety and otherwise do those kind of things. So it's,
We have full-time code enforcement. Is that correct?
we do not.
What happened there?
We have animal control.
Okay.
And so his primary emphasis is animal control / code enforcement, but his primary
Okay.
control is animal control. Code enforcement is now our community resource officer. So yes, he's enforcing the code, but we call it community resource. So I say that on purpose because we're trying to move the thinking this way towards a community resource officer because they can help with other things too. But essentially, yes, he's enforcing the code.
Would there be money in the budget? Could money be voted into the budget for a full-time parking code enforcement in certain areas?
I'm going to probably say that's not likely to happen, but certainly anyone as a citizen too can make that request. And then we put it into our budget process and then council will prioritize what they want to fund. But
I think that falls under part of what we can do here is the BID, correct?
I don't know that we can,
I pulled this directly and not trying to take a bunch of time, I'll be brief.
I would have to look at what chapter 50 says again about what exactly the state allows us to direct funds.
Okay, so
I don't know if.
Title
we-
50, Chapter 26 enables the formation of a BID. BID assesses ratepayers in the downtown business improvement district to generate revenue, which shall be used on projects that include but are not limited to the management, development, and promotion of the district, recruitment of new businesses in the district, assistance in the redevelopment or of properties within the district, and participation in any other related activities necessary or desirable for the promotion of the business or promotion of the downtown district. That's right off of
I think legal would struggle to find promotion of the downtown business district equatable to hiring a parking enforcement officer.
matching funds, offsetting part of the expense.
Yeah, so it's something I could reach out to legal and ask for an opinion on and bring it back to the board, for
Because
sure.
we still have this issue with all the business owners basically parking in front of their businesses, which is, very difficult on downtown Lewiston parking or in our district. And they refuse not to, and there's no reason for them not to, other than the fact they're running off possible business because people can't find a place to park, make 3 laps around, they leave.
I think, so I don't want to overstep my boundaries too. So the community resource officer is under Jeff Smith. Is that Jeff's last name?
Wolf.
Jeff Wolf. So Jeff Wolf is his supervisor and Jeff's supervisor is Shannon Grove. And so I try not to get in the middle of that, but certainly I can share your concerns with the director, and others, but it's going to happen. We have to build this up. And so even if he did, in my mind, if he did parking one day, you could cover a lot of ground in a day
Absolutely.
and get the message out to people. And they just have to see that happening, once or twice. And then they start to understand that we're starting to put more emphasis on it again, so that they take it seriously. Because we're also going to get the calls, and that's okay, from folks maybe who get a ticket and say, what the heck? Why all of a sudden you just slamming this on me? Well, it's been in the paper, it's been on the internet, it's been on our website, these kind of things. But the thing like with a parking ticket, my understanding is from the past that when you got a parking ticket, and the example that was shared with me is like with students, and I think it was a $50 ticket or something. They could come down to City Hall, and if they were responsive and got down there right away and say, yeah, I was up in the college district and I shouldn't have parked there, and here it is. Well, they don't have any money, but we would allow them to pay a lesser fee, 25 or 15 or something like that, if they came in. So it's just trying to get that communication going and get people to do the right thing. So same thing too, where, all of a sudden you got a business that's parking behind, what is the street behind Diamond Shop and everything? F Street. So I know there's a lot of people that park their businesses, where it says no parking or 3 hours and stuff like that. And all of a sudden we start ticketing them. They're not going to be happy, but we have to tell them it applies to everyone, So we have to try to be judicious in how we do this and work with folks, and we say, okay, come on, we gotta work together. And then, of course, they're gonna hold us to higher standard. Well, you gave me one, you better give Dennis one, and Doug a ticket and everything else, all of us, Tammy, so that, which is fine, but with one person, it's just, we're gonna have to work hard to have that consistency,
Yeah,
so
because a
people.
slap on the hand doesn't
Yeah.
work, a monetary
Yeah.
fine or
Yeah.
that gets people's attention.
Yeah, so that's my intention, is to get there, and I think we will. I think Dave is the right person to get there, and our community development is gonna work very hard with us to try to get that message out, and make it a positive message. This isn't about trying to make people mad or ruin their day. It's like, folks, there's a reason why we have these in place, is to help all of us. Businesses can be successful, the city can be welcoming, these kind of things, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's, I think that's a long overdue position and very much appreciated from my standpoint as a citizen. So, thank you.
All right, any other-
Can I just share one other quick thing with I know I'm dominating here. So like with the code enforcement officer position we used to have, and then the animal control, they both did code enforcement, but it wasn't that long ago, when I'm trying to understand what's going on at the city and understand positions, and I've made the request of, okay, how many citations have we issued in the last year and a half? Guesses?
I didn't say zero.
That doesn't tell me the program's working. So this is why we're trying to go a different direction. Obviously, beating people over the head's not working, so we're gonna try to, and then we would do things like, because I went to one, where the animal control officer told me, who was filling in for the code enforcement, said, well, I sent him a certified letter and I don't have the response back. And he was waiting and waiting and waiting for that letter to come back, and it's like, I wouldn't sign it either. Are you kidding me? So we're not doing certified letters, these things that just add time, expense, and nothing comes of it. So we're gonna engage the people. The community resource officer truly is our superhero. He's gonna knock on doors, he's gonna talk to people, he or she, if we get a part-time. Tell people, hey, listen, I know it's hard, but we gotta do this. And if we get to the point where they don't wanna comply, we don't have a choice but to go in there and abate it. So we'll do it ourselves or hire someone to do it. We send them the bill. And they're not gonna like that. And they might say, I'm not paying it. I said, well, we'll turn it over to collections, but I'm done arguing with you, and get it done. And oh, by the way, there's an admin fee of $150 on this. So it's just easier if you do things up front. The parking stuff, we'll look at that. If we ever have to start towing vehicles, that's a more complicated issue, but we're working on that one too.
Any other comments or questions for the mayor while he's here? Thank you for your comments. All right, we will move on to our agenda, approval of November 9th minutes.
I move that we approve the November 9th minutes as written.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's review the bank statement letter. All right, any questions from anybody or comments, any discussion?
Back there again.
Click on the maybe. All right, no discussion on the bank statement. We're good, no questions. It's pretty easy this time, huh? All right, we'll move on to the invoices. QuickBooks first.
It's just a review, right?
Yes.
Has the review as action items, so do we want to do them individually or all together? easy this time,
I suggest we do them all together.
but, okay. So everybody okay with the QuickBooks one?
Yes.
Okay, and then Neopost, oh, Neo one, sorry. That one's normal, right?
Right.
And then postal and copy. Good with that one? How about Plaid Friday? Heard really good things about that, by the way.
Yeah, we had quite a bit of business downtown.
That's what it sounded like, yeah, I wasn't there, but.
We pretty much almost sold out of all of the infusing booze at the Innovation Hub.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Have
it's
fun. Yeah, that's starting to take off too. Okay, how about First Friday?
Santa.
Any questions on the PL staff hours?
Yeah, I have one question. On the green space / dog park / pop-up park, what is that?
So I was contacted by the city grant writer, Melinda Rose, to try to figure out more spaces for grass areas for residents to actually be able to take their dogs. Because right now, the closest spot is Brackenberry, and the grass is constantly eroding, and it's usually just muddy, because all the residents just go there. So we were looking at other locations that are close enough, walkable, that we could potentially install, or I guess install would be the word, trash receptacles, and then the doggy bags, and have other green spaces available for residents.
Okay, so in that time that you spent 8 hours, did you come up with anything?
Yeah, so we have 4 viable spaces. We have the opportunity to apply for a grant, I believe in February. And that would be something that VDL would apply for. The city would apply for the grant and allocate funds to the BID, not VDL, in order to make that space viable, or potentially more than one.
So where are the spaces, I mean, that you're looking at?
The one would be, there's a patch of grass over in the Library Tribune parking lot that, well, it's not even grass, it's weeds right now. Expanding that a little bit. There's another spot behind Newberry Square. And then potentially, depending on the ownership of the property, in between Wells Fargo and I believe it's a massage parlor where the restaurant used to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There are some other spaces, but they're really small, and so to be able to maintain them based on how the grass is at Brackenberry, it wouldn't be useful of the money spent for the grant.
So this is something that's really concerning the people downtown?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of feedback, mostly from people saying, you know, what are you doing to replant the grass to not make it muddy? And so the solution is to have more spaces so that not everyone is going to the same location.
I brought it up last meeting because after I made the downtown walk and just walked in and talked to business owners, a lot of the complaints were dog feces on the sidewalks, in the little planters that are all along Main Street on both sides where the trees and whatnot are. They pop them into there, those get full, so somebody walking into a business, they smell dog crap before they ever hit the front door.
We have it at the museum in the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a
Heritage
problem
House.
downtown. I think it's for, people that are living down here that have pets that really have no place to take them, and that's where I brought it, maybe the receptacles, and I don't know how we would have that, if that would be Parks and Rec would maintain, or, how that would happen, but it's, for the downtown business owners, BID ratepayers, it's a concern.
We clean almost daily the artificial turf. I think that's funny.
Yeah. Any other questions on the
Not
staff
fun
hours,
to pay for it, but.
volunteer hours? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the invoices?
I second.
I need a motion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't hear.
I don't get to do it.
I move that we approve the invoices as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's hear this 23 summary of activities.
Okay, so I won't necessarily go through line by line, but I just put a basic overview of my understanding of what has been completed, where we're at with these projects. This was presented to council on last Monday. And there weren't really a whole lot of questions necessarily. I think the majority of the questions had to do with the dissolution of the administrative agreement, which I've had both positive and negative feedback back and forth. I think we finally found the thing that is going to engage ratepayers, and it's telling people that we're not doing something anymore. So I have, on the positive side, I've had a lot of really great feedback on how business owners can be more engaged, how they can provide employees with volunteer hours, what that looks like, and if it could be done over a lunch break where they go and look at the planters and see if there's anything to be cleaned up, or if there's trash on the streets, or if we loan them a leaf blower, if they would just go downtown. So a lot of good things have come of that, and I'm really excited for kind of the lateral move. Obviously, with one person trying to do all the work that's in the work plan, it gets a little bit difficult. So I appreciate the city jumping in and wanting to help with this to make it, come to fruition. So I appreciate that. Were there any questions on any of the updates?
None? Any discussion on any of it? All right, then we will move on to the 24 work plan.
The 24 work plan was mostly included so that, just kind of as a reminder to the board of what was in the 23, and activities that were presented to council this last Monday, what you guys have chosen to put in the 24 work plan, moving forward. There's not really an action needed on it. It's more just to keep it in your mind.
Can we modify that as we move forward? Or is that set in stone?
No, it can be modified. It would have to go back to council for approval, but it can definitely be modified.
Okay.
And I'm probably starting in January, I'm probably going to ask the board to consider that.
Okay, yeah, so I've looked at this. I'm still, if we have a second to discuss it, the mural, the more I look at that, I'm wondering why we're spending money on a mural as business improvement district, but actually, I think that should fall under beautiful downtown Lewiston. I think that is more of their,
I agree.
for us, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say this politically, but I think it's a huge waste of our participants' funds. It does not bring any business down. It does not help their businesses. It makes it prettier possibly, but that's BDL, Beautiful Downtown Lewiston's, I think, agenda, not the business improvement district.
Well, and
I'm
so,
just
and I
throwing that
think,
out for a discussion to see what the.
yes, and I think,
that's a mistake.
so, and we'll talk about this when we get to administrator comments and staff comments. But like Brenda just mentioned, so the city and BDL have decided to terminate the administration contract. So BDL will no longer be the administrator of the BID. The city is gonna take that under their purview, we'll say.
Okay.
So as part of that, that's why, starting in January, I would like the board to revisit the work plan, because there are a number of items that are in the work plan that are kind of more specific to what BDL does and BDL can help with. And if they're not gonna be the administrator and we're not gonna be paying them for hours, we need to reevaluate how the board wants to move forward with completing projects and doing things to improve the district. Because some things, I don't know if they're as doable once we are separated from BDL.
Okay, so then that manual that we were given to read, to reference back to, which I do, will that be completely revised?
Parts of it will be, the state code doesn't change, right? The resolution doesn't change. So those things don't change. The ordinance regarding the BID doesn't change. The administration contract is eliminated, right? And so I believe part of that was, no, it's just a contract. So the contract
Correct.
goes away.
Right.
And so we will reevaluate, the board will reevaluate the items that are in the work plan, still has to meet code, like just like you read, has to follow those items. And then I feel like we take that back to council, to move forward with projects.
Okay.
And so there might be a discussion with BDL about how the BID district engages in things like events, because that is part of what's called out from state code, you know, things that promote the district. So the board will need to discuss what they want that to look like. Do you want to just be like a major sponsor and pay a flat fee for the events that you would like to continue supporting? Or are you going to ask that BDL comes to you with a request each time they want support from BID? I don't know what that looks like. The board needs to have that discussion and
And in
decide.
turn, we could actually charge them or receive funds if we do something to help one of their actions as well, if we adopt that. Is that correct?
I would have to ask legal how that would look, but that might be a possibility,
Just
sure.
the same thing we're doing with them right now, where they're overseeing. If they're not overseeing anymore, then I think there's some give and take between the two, EDL and
Maybe
BID.
more like matching funds to accomplish
Correct.
something.
Yes,
Exactly.
yeah, it would be something like that. We would probably be like, BID is willing to provide this level of support for whatever.
We don't have any authority to charge any fees, but we could certainly match.
Yes, I mean, I think that you could have limits on how you give money or pay for things. I don't know that you could charge, but I think that you can definitely have parameters for the way that BID moves
But we
forward
would
and
offset
supporting.
expenses if we were to participate, correct? We'd have our expenses offset if we would participate in a BDL program, if we chose to do so.
What do you mean our expenses?
Say if we get a grant, for example, for the green spaces, right?
So BID probably would not be the ones applying for grants. BDL would apply for grants.
Okay.
And so it could be something where, a lot of times grants will have a situation where they need matching funds. So maybe BDL comes to us and says, hey, I can get this $5,000 grant, but we need matching funds. So BDL's able to do 2,500, could BID do 2,500?
And I get that, but is that green space, if it's gonna be part of our work plan, and then we're no longer going to be governed by Beautiful Downtown Lewiston, if
So-
it's their program, can we still push it through them? Or is that, am I missing something?
So green space currently isn't identified as, I mean, that would be like neighborhood improvements, but it's not called out in your 24 work plan.
Specifically.
But if you
Correct.
wanted to have it called out in your 24 work
Correct.
plan, we could,
So if we added that too, but then we lose their oversight, then at that
So
point.
it mostly-
does it
so
go
at
through
that
them?
point,
Do
it would-
we
it
keep
would-
as an adoption? And then how does the money look? I guess we can talk about this later, I'm
yeah, I don't know all the answers to your questions. Legal would probably need to come get involved, because I think there would
with
be,
you after this, we don't tie everybody up.
yeah, so there would be like things like who actually owns the land, if there are continued costs to like have an area like that, like would that just be taken over by the city?
Parks and Rec,
Yeah, so, yeah, there would have to be kind of like figuring out what the whole picture was, to move forward with something like
Some of
that.
it will still work the same way, where it's a partnership between the two different entities, if we're working on the same type of project.
Yes, so I think, so instead of all projects going through BDL, I think we'll have certain projects go through BDL,
okay,
and then other
that
projects
answers my question,
won't.
did that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions on the 24 work plan?
So I guess from my perspective, I would ask the board to take some time between now and the January meeting, look over the 24 work plan and think very hard about what can this board actually accomplish. And because some of the items that are on here are kind of, they're not tangibles. They are great ideas, but please think about how they actually get accomplished.
Well, here's my question. have we really gotten anything accomplished all year? I mean, the planners aren't even out, so those were done this spring. It just seems like we get together and nothing's actually physically accomplished.
I did see the electricians out working on lights this
Did
morning.
you?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's my point. I am 100% on board with Susie. That's my point as well.
It's
I,
just-
I started in June, so I kept my mouth shut. This is my 6th meeting. And at this point, when I first started, I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I have a better grasp. And from what I see going back to January 1st for the 2023 work plan, what's being carried over to 2024, I see nothing done for the year of 2023.
It's
If I was
frustrating.
just a ratepayer and didn't understand what's going on inside of this, I'd be pissed.
I'd be upset, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of what the downtown business people that I visit with, that's a lot of the feedback that I got. I'm a pretty good, intimidating size, so it's not like, you're dirty, rotten guys, but they're saying, hey, if you could do this, this, and this, it would sure help us.
Yeah.
So,
One, like Brenda mentioned, when it's one person doing it, it's difficult. So the hope is by terminating the contract and the city being able to be the administrator, hopefully we'll get some more action.
Have some more resources.
Yes, exactly, more resources available.
That'd be wonderful for resources.
Okay.
How many more steps will be involved with the city involved?
Not that many.
I thought about that. It can't be any worse than our oversight, so
Well, 3
actually
years
it might
ago,
be
my wife
easier
and I
because they
raised
might just turn us
money for
loose.
Pickleball courts that still aren't built.
Yeah. That comes back to the other thing. I think the planters, if we could, if we could sell the planters to beautiful downtown Lewiston, let them take them over, if we could return them. There again, that's one of the things, signage, it's hard to see a lot of signage downtown from the businesses. They're hidden by the trees, they're hidden by other
Well,
signs.
it's too busy.
And
There's
then if
just
we're gonna
too
put
much.
planters on top of that, to have to see around, but we've already purchased them, so
So
I
the
doubt
planners,
very
the
much we
planners
can
are to
return.
replace existing planners. So there's already planners.
I get that, but it's still I think if we could remove them or let BDL take that program over, possibly see if they would buy the planters from us, take that off our schedule so we can better tackle the stuff that we can get done that makes sense for our ratepayers.
I think part of that too is in preparation for potentially removing some of those cemented ones to increase parking or whatever, the different
Correct.
things that are gonna happen. So if we have the ones we've already purchased, we'll still have something pretty. And we can replace, we can.
But eventually phase those out, sell them off, whatever, scrap them.
On the other hand, Peter, those are things that people want to see and want to have.
People that drive through downtown, but people that are coming down to do business, I don't think it makes anything at all. The concrete ones we already have with the trees and whatnot, in fall, summer, and, spring, summer, and fall are quite pretty. These planters are gonna be dormant, I would assume, in the wintertime, just like the leaves on the trees. So I don't know how much we're gonna engage for 3 or 4 months a
I think
year.
there's probably not a totally shared feeling that we need to have a sterile downtown. I think that things like planters and that make a big difference in how a community is seen, and especially if they're maintained well. And
Shows life.
yeah, I think we're going to have some very interesting discussions when we look at what if
And
we
then
try to
we'll come in
push
our
things
January
off
meeting,
one way or
but
the
that's why I
other.
just like people to think about, this is just one side, but there again,
If you're
coming from a lot
going
of
out and
ratepayers'
doing
feedback.
research, you come back here and you're talking really, really fast. I'm having
sorry.
really trouble listening to you. If you're out there doing research, one of the things that's beneficial when you're making some global statements, people say, if we do this, this, and this, and this, and this, I'd like to know what the this and this and this and this and this are, because that's good research, good stuff to be doing. But if you're out there doing it and you come back and make a statement, they're asking us to get this done, and this done, but I don't know what the this is. So when I listen to your conversation, I'm saying, Peter, what I need from you is if you are doing this, or any of us doing this, if we hear things, we need to be pretty specific back here, because we can't deal with a global statement that they want us to get something done. Well, what's the something?
I understand that. But the something's on our work plan, and I'm addressing work plan products. Can we get the planters up, or can we leave those so we can more and better tackle other things like the sunshades over Brackenberry. I think that's a very, very, very important project for everybody downtown, for people coming through, for people coming down to the events that happen there, especially in summertime. I think that's something we have to get done this year. Does anybody disagree?
It needs to
Okay.
be done for.
The crosswalk stuff, we talked about maybe beacons of that, there's fairly expensive. Looking back, I've been through Moscow, for example. Pullman, for example, they just have Colfax, they just have the yellow or orange flags on every crosswalk, on both sides, a little bucket of them, and if you come to the crosswalk, you grab one of those flags, you hold it out, it's visible by traffic, you make the pass. On the other side, you put the flag back into the hole. Now, granted, some of those will disappear, they'll get destroyed, they wear out, but that would be a very inexpensive way and a very quick way to tackle our crosswalk
But we already tried that.
issues.
Yeah, we have had the flags before,
Yeah.
and all
I've
of
never
them
seen it.
disappeared.
Yeah, they're,
Because all of them disappeared.
they're
Yeah.
on D
People steal
Street
them.
up across from, the restaurant there.
It gives us an opportunity to talk about other things related. You know, I have said 50 times, I don't think there's a more dangerous corner than the corner that by the library in D Street.
Yeah,
D Street.
history.
That is.
There is not a sign that says anything like caution, pedestrian congestion when you go around the corner. I watch people go around there at 4:30 at night in the winter. And they're going around that corner at speeds, I don't know how they keep their vehicles flat. And you've got moms and kids, and you've got people that, you know, and you see it down by your business as well, people that go try to cross the street. We might have some it might give us a chance to talk about it. And I'm not objecting to what you're saying at all. I'm just saying that this is an opportunity, again, for us to talk about what are things that would improve the quality of life down here, and that if we don't kill somebody, that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
You know, and you and I probably will differ on planters. I want to see planters in, and I want to see them planted, and I want to see them affected. And that's fine, because I really believe that aesthetics, and I visit a lot of cities, that makes a huge difference in how you feel about going into a city.
Okay, but moving forward from that, if we are no longer a district in 3 years, then who maintains them? What if our ratepayers don't want to adopt all of them, then who takes care of them?
So those are
I mean,
the
we have that
yeah,
thing,
those
that
are
we
the
bought the
valid
planters, but we
questions.
never had a complete plan, start to finish, on how this was gonna work. It's haphazard at best.
And I don't disagree with that. I mean, one of the problems of the business improvement district that we always have had to have in the back of our minds, but we spent a lot of time doing administrative things. It'll give us a chance to talk about sustainability down the road. If you put something in, you do something, how does it, you know,
Like 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years.
Do we even have a date yet set for the planners? I mean, is there a date?
No. I've been making phone calls. I will update you on
Okay.
when we get to that section, when we get to staff comments, I will provide you some updates.
I'll be quiet. Sorry.
Anything else on the work plan, 24 work plan? All right, we can move on to board member comments.
Mike Pete said all his comments, so.
now some level of frustration in not knowing what was happening until we read about it.
Yeah.
That bothered me a lot.
I'm not in charge of the mayor, so.
Why not?
I know, if I could be in charge of everybody, it would be great.
I would love it.
I'm going to have that conversation with Dan, because I think that there were people asking me yesterday what was going on, and I said, I don't know.
Did they watch the council meeting?
That's a bad position. I understand what happened, and we came into this whole business improvement district as Wendy said this morning. We came into it as a very negative time. We came into it in the middle of COVID. We came into it when it wasn't a switch of leadership without any direction whatsoever.
People who started it aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And it was
So-
initially quarterly meetings that were, you know, I mean, it was a whole different
There were enough negatives that it would make any of us here in this room nervous saying that we were here administrating something, because we didn't have the something to administrate. It's the Dr. Marion Shin comment, sometimes you don't have something to exec. You know, you don't hire an executive director if you don't have something to exec. Well, that's kind of what happened to us, and in that frustration level, I guess I felt it this week, and it doesn't change what I do as a 76-year-old advocate walking down Main Street like you do, a little younger than I am.
Probably not
But
much.
I tell you what, it is frustrating not to know. That's blindsiding, and I don't like to be blindsided. That makes me nervous.
I agree, it would have been nice to have had our meeting first and known that it was going to go to council. But because of how things scheduled and council now doesn't have a meeting until January
January.
8th.
Because
think that's why it got split
people are
along.
yapping about things, as you say, positives and negatives, and they don't know what they're yapping about. And that bothers me.
Not really uncommon for a council that's gonna be changing some turnover to, take care of some unfinished business before the end of the year.
Pick up those other pieces. Yep. And I think it's something we need to think about because we all have to be united on what our plan is, we all agree to, so we can all defend if we need to defend or, celebrate if
Right.
it comes to that point, good and bad. But we all have to be able to defend it to
Well,
begin with,
there's
because that seems
definitely
like we're
gonna-
getting more of that.
I guess I had 2 or 3 other really quick things. One of them was, how do we respond? Do we respond to the correspondence that we have?
So I know that exact correspondence, at least from Dawn Abbott, was also sent to Public Works, and that they reached back out to her, with information regarding what type of signs were actually taken down, and I believe, contact information for Dave Goby, our community resource officer. And then like the mayor had said, he is going to start doing some traffic enforcement. They're just waiting on his tickets. And he might even start doing the walkarounds prior to having tickets. I know that he's gone up to the Normal Hill campus area, because I've gotten calls from homeowners up there recently, and has walked around and visited with people up there too. So my understanding is he will be on that. So there is that. Other than that, it wasn't a no overnight parking sign, so the city's not gonna put up a no overnight parking sign.
It just worked that way for them
It
apparently.
did work that way, I believe. I don't know.
The other one is, do you talk about
Vicky
Vicky's
and
letter,
Nikki
yeah.
and
BID,
Mark.
yes.
No?
So I mean, I have no problem with responding to her and providing her with the information that would actually have to be,
what would actually have to be done?
yes, assembled, to propose a, dissolution of the whole district. I can provide her with that information.
If you don't mind following up on that, because you have more answers for her than
Sure.
I do, that would be great.
And you forwarded me that email, right?
Yes, I did, I forwarded it to both of you.
We will have something like that, because I know when it was first voted in, a lot of people liked the idea of it, but they did not want the city to be the administrator of it.
And that, we're right back to that.
So there's definitely going to be some negative
We
there.
also had talked in the beginning about hiring an administrator, and we opted not to.
And I
Discussed
think
that a few times.
ultimately, that choice is city council's choice. You're just an advisory board. So you can definitely make that recommendation to council. Whether or not they want to take that recommendation is up to them.
Wendy, can you send that email to me too?
So, you guys are gonna do some with it, right?
It'll be in the minutes, won't it?
Yeah, I think
It will be.
Oh,
email.
okay,
Yeah.
It'll be attached to everything that way.
Thank you. Okay.
I think, and having it addressed by city, not by board, I think
Right.
will have more weight when that does come back to them.
And today's my last day in this capacity, so.
I want to follow up a little bit for a minute about the Liberty and the grant and
Oh, yeah.
what that does and where it takes us at this point. When we started the project with the Liberty, it was supposed to be a $1.7 million project, and it has become a $3.25 million project. So $100,000 doesn't seem like a great deal, not a huge dent in that process. but it is one that we really had to change our philosophy as a board for the Liberty, because there are two theories out there, that you fix the inside and you do the outside last, because when you do the outside, people think you're done with the project, and sometimes, and that kills the project.
Perception, correct.
And makes it even more difficult to do. But I think there's been enough comment to us of major donors who said, you know, I really don't want to invest money unless I see you being good partners with downtown. And we hope that we will be. I mean, that's important. So we kind of changed the philosophy to say, okay, let's get the marquee done. And it went from a $165,000 project to close to a $400,000 project. Part of that structural, part of that is just the incredible cost to do the preservation of things like the neon, et cetera. So this is really just to get the crappy looking, miserable mess that's on Main Street that isn't being a good partner. It doesn't look good. It's not inviting to have appealing structure with paint on the ground. And for us, it's essential to get that fixed first, and this is probably what was the trigger, is that without it fixed, water was going down into the foundation, and it had not caused any damage at this point. We had to divert that, and we spent some time and money on getting that going where it was, the water going where it's supposed to go. Well, that kind of thing has to be done from the marquee. We are in this process with $100,000. It seems like an awful lot of money, but most of that $100,000 work will be done on the structural integrity of that, and we will still, it will look better, it will certainly be better. We are in the process of contacting some major donors who have indicated in the past that they would be interested in helping with finishing that part of the project. So it's kind of where we are at this point. Working with the National Park Service is not fun. If any of you have ever tried that before, and this is a National Park Service grant that was given, an $821,000 grant that was given to the state of Idaho, and 9 different theaters are participating in that, and here in northern Idaho, up in Sandpoint and Kenworthy.
Does the Canada get money?
Pardon?
Does the Canada get money? Cool.
So there is, there's just really cool stuff that's happening. The good part of it is that they've already told us that there may be more money coming down the pike for us. And that would be incredibly good. The other victory here is that we receive CDBG money to work on the roof and the handicap bathroom and the kinds of things that are there. And part of that compliance agreement is they have to be able to physically see what is happening in the fundraising world. And they want to see things happening, and of course things are happening, which is the good part. So you will see some. We're in that stage of that's very difficult right now in terms of the major donors, but it's an important one. Kind of where we are at the moment, but you will see some things happening down there. You may not see all of the $100,000 because it will be to make the building safe.
And that's something else that this group, that we can also participate in, is that not correct?
That one?
In a donation towards that,
I don't know.
with the ID funds, I bet we can.
I think it would fall under the neighborhood improvements.
And it said there again, what I read earlier this morning, it says right in there to help improve, facilities.
Well, we're very grateful for the response that we're getting. It was, when you start a project all over, and that's kind of what I'm referred to with BDL before. When you start something and you go 2 or 3 steps ahead, and all of a sudden you get a whammy like we did as a society, we have to restart. And we lost some sugar daddies along the way. You know, we had a lady committed to pay $500,000 for the balcony on a Saturday, and she died on Tuesday following it. And her heirs may not have the same desire to give up that money. So, you know, it's timing. We're grateful for everybody hanging in there and showing up. There were people who showed up at the presentation the other day. Brenda, we're thankful, grateful for you, and Tammy, thank you for coming. Appreciate that.
All right, any other comments?
I was gonna say, before the January meeting where we go over next year's program, so to speak, as far as the planners and things go that Peter's talking about, I'm in a bit of an agreement with Peter on that. Everybody wants downtown to be a beautiful place and a place inviting. But you know, the biggest retailers anyway in Lewiston don't have many planners. I've been by Walmart and Costco and North 40, and other than what the city's requiring to put in the parking lot, nothing. And I think that's kind of what Peter's saying, and it's kind of the way I feel too, is that some of the buildings and businesses downtown, if you visit downtown, you have a hard time finding them because of the stuff in the way.
Correct.
BDL's new office is one that doesn't stand out, and yet it's a great looking place, but there's so much going on already downtown. And particularly where we have crosswalks and cross areas that aren't lit, they rely on the drivers to be paying attention. And we also have the parking downtown that I don't like, but that's, when I was on the Parks Board, I fought that forever. I think backing out onto Main Street is not a good program, but that's my own opinion. And then the other thing I was gonna say is, because we all were, at least I was blindsided too, like Dennis said, about the separation, so to call it. Just for my own information, how many people here think that the program we've been doing, working with BDL, I think it works fine. But what's everybody else think? I mean, maybe we need to tell them kind of what we think.
I think there's a joint appreciation for downtown and like similar ideas. There's just not enough people to make it happen.
Right, yep. And so the more we divide it up, I just see it getting more and more difficult, actually. But that's,
From my perspective, we were handed a concept. There was nothing beyond that, just a concept. And, it was pitched and proposed and pushed by Brenda's predecessor, who then quickly left town. And, here's a framework. There's no framework, there's no foundation. And so, we've been, since, I've been on the board, we started, it was a quarterly commitment to approve expenditures. That was the gist of it. And we've had to really create, the infrastructure and everything for the board to begin with from the start. So from my perspective, we haven't accomplished anything other than putting the processes in place to actually move forward. And that's been a struggle, frankly. And so I do see that, we're in a position now to actually move forward, and we've got a board makeup of people who actually show up and are committed and have opinions and care.
I'm impressed by this board, frankly.
So,
I
I
don't care if we
feel like,
disagree on things.
we're in a position to actually move forward for the first time since the inception of this board. So I guess that's my overarching view of where we stand.
From the outside looking in, it's taken 3 years to get there. We only have 3 years left to make a difference to be able to continue this.
Absolutely. And I completely get that, and has it only been a year since we decided to shift to monthly meetings?
Yes.
Yeah, so, those first 2 years were quarterly and kind of getting together and scratching our heads in terms of,
And there weren't even honestly, they weren't even quarterly because several times the meetings were canceled because there's not a quorum. And then they were rescheduled.
I think we've all figured out that we have a reason to want to improve things. I don't know if we have an answer to your question, Mike, in terms of what do we feel about the split? I don't think it makes any difference right now. I think we're there and we make it work. I mean, we make
BDL does give us, I think, a little bit more backing or a little bit more positivity, I think, than what the city's gonna basically oversee, but they're gonna turn us loose on our own. Where I do think what do we get for, you don't think so?
No.
Okay, so what do we get with our partnership with beautiful downtown Lewiston though? We have more volunteers to help with our projects, paid, unpaid, correct? Do we lose that specifically, or do we still get that relationship? Because you see both.
From my end,
What is
excuse me,
your take on that?
From my
I guess
end,
that's what,
my involvement with BID isn't gonna change. I'm still gonna support whatever the board would like to do because that's just a benefit to our business owners, property owners, our community in general. So if volunteers are needed, that's where BDL comes in as a support.
okay.
The benefit that I see on the flip side, or I guess maybe not the benefit, but the kind of setback is I have, BDL as it is, and we're running how we have for the last, since 2007, pretty much, and just growing. And this is a completely different structure than what our organization is used to. So when I send out an email asking for a bid for contractors to install sunshades, I had one email back saying, "Why are you asking for bids? BDL doesn't do this." So it was that misconception of why is BDL, even though we're the administrator, there's still that lack of knowledge on why are we supporting this? Or why are we not? On both sides, really. So moving forward, I've taken notes on the 2024 work plan. I do agree that there are things on here that should not be BID related, that maybe were brought on from the very beginning and just continue to roll over. There are definitely some suggestions on how BDL can support the initiatives of the BID board, whether that be through matching funds or applying for the grants as a nonprofit. I don't foresee my board necessarily saying, we terminated the agreement, now we're just gonna turn a blind eye and just be absent, so.
Do you think we're gonna have more red tape or less red tape?
I think it's gonna be a
Different.
different amount of red tape.
Different shade.
Type of, yeah.
A different type. And I don't really think, it's just the process is a little different for how the city processes things.
Won't there be a benefit as far as contractor work?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I see
So
is.
explain that for them, like what the benefit for, like,
Okay.
getting contractors for some of these projects.
Are we gonna skip BID administrator comments or you
Okay,
would talk?
I'd like to hear this too, so go ahead.
Okay, super. So for example, we had talked about installing the new LED lights through the downtown corridor, and Brenda had lots of problems finding a contractor who would call her back or schedule or blah, blah, blah. I spoke with Parks and Rec on Tuesday after everything went to council on Monday. I spoke with our city electrician. He made calls on Wednesday. Well Connected Electric is starting on Monday. Red
There
Hall-
today.
Yeah, I think, so he told me the project would start on Monday. I'm sure they're looking at things today. When he called me, he thought, he was like, yeah, we can totally do this. We're gonna start Monday. We'll probably be done by Friday. And he also thought that it would be free because there is still a Vista monies, rebate monies that he is able to access. And he thought that would cover the entire cost of the project. So, where people weren't even calling Brenda back, that's already moving. I'm starting the process of reaching out to landscaping contractors so that we can get the existing planters that are damaged, falling apart, whatever, removed, because they do have to be emptied and then fully removed before the new ones can go in. Those planters do become property of the city and the Parks and Rec Department, and that is who would ultimately maintain them if a business did not want to adopt them. My thought is that we still work with BDL to contact businesses that would be interested in adopting them, because I know there were a number who had reached out to Brenda who are interested in doing that. Because they like to maintain a certain kind of flower or want it to look a certain way or whatever. So I think that that's still a partnership that would happen, and we could figure out if you can put a little plaque on them or not. I don't know if that's doable with those particular planters, but we could probably do something. We would figure that out. So I think that, like, from my perspective, the red tape isn't red tape, it's just the process is different. I do think that because of the city already working with contractors and having like list of people who are already approved through the W-9, who are already approved to do right-of-way work, all of those things, we already have that knowledge. And so like Brenda would have to go find those things or make sure that the contractors that she was able to get bids from had those things so that they can do the certain kinds of work that require the certain kinds of permits. Where I can just pull that list, call those people, set them up with whichever department of the city they have to coordinate with for certain things, like with the planters, some planters still have irrigation to them, so the city plumber will need to go along and cap off things for that so that they can be removed. So I think there's just different things that the city is able to participate in that might be a smoother and a less problematic process.
Let us expedite some of what we.
Well, it sounds
Yes.
like, yeah, it is.
So my plan, so when the mayor came to me on Friday or whatever day it was that he was like, hey, this is what's gonna happen. My plan is to try to knock some things off of the work plan, some of the physical items. We already have purchased a lot of things. They're sitting in parks and storage right now. So my goal is a 60-day rollout of the things that I can get rolled out. And then we can reevaluate and we can see what else we go to. I've also, so on the work plan is things like the quarterly newsletter. So I've reached out to our PIO, who's our public information officer, because she already does like a magazine thing that's called Living Lewiston. It would probably be very easy for the BID to just pay for a certain number of pages in there specific to BID projects or information. So it would be a real similar thing to what Brenda's already have been doing, where she sends out something additional to her existing BDL newsletter. Ditto for a web page, pretty easy for them to throw up a simple page that would bump off the city's page. We could determine what information we want included on there. So those things are doable. Because I guess the thing to keep in mind is like Brenda's one person, right? She does have volunteers, but it's only when they're able to do things, and they might not always have the expertise of doing certain things. I have a whole city of people. So I have 200 some employees, most of who do something very specialized. So I can use them for different little bits. So it's not like it's just me trying to get all of these things done.
And the city's more on top of this business go in our corridor to put together an interactive map or a map of downtown so people could easily access to find business or businesses that they're looking for to want to shop.
Resources, you mean?
What's that?
Resources?
Yeah, the city has a lot better resources. They know business, all the business
And that's
licenses. You
what
have to have a
you're-
business
yeah, we have all
license, so they can
people
take
who have
business
business
licenses
licenses.
from there to, you know, the Harley store, and they know what businesses, where addresses, blah, blah, blah. So I think it'd be easier to make an interactive map too, which I think would help downtown businesses.
I don't know that it would be easier to make an interactive map. I think it'd be easier for us to identify all the locations of those.
And then they'll print a map in Living Lewiston or something like that.
Yes, we could probably figure out something like that. So I think that the city is able to handle certain things fine. And like I said at the beginning of the meeting, the board will need to decide how they want to engage with BDL when it comes to things like the events and other like advertising, sponsorship, promotion, those sorts of things. Because I think that's still gonna be what BDL is gonna do best. And I think the board just figures out how they want to do that engagement with BDL. Whether that be that you guys become a major sponsor of an event. So you become a major sponsor of Pumpkin Palooza. So then it says Business Improvement District, major sponsor, right? You're on all the posters, you're on all the things, you pay whatever that flat fee is, there you go. So I think that's a conversation for the board to have, how they would like to use their monies towards those sorts of things.
All right.
I think it might also, we have two frustration points working with the city, and maybe this will give us an opportunity to work with them. One is getting the payment structure. The payment structure through the city is really, 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 really tough. And that might be something that it's time consuming, but it might, going through your office, might be able to have cut out a link in there somewhere that
What do
might
you
be
mean payment
helpful.
structure?
Pardon?
What do you mean the payment structure?
So when we need to get money transferred from one place to another, it's very difficult in the city. It has been difficult in the city for 10 years. And that's what you're saying in terms of billing things and that sort of thing.
Okay.
The other one is to get follow-up through Parks and Rec has become a personality-driven comment rather than a structural, this is how we get it done. And I don't know how we solve that. I mean, we can't solve it here at this table, but we have to, it may give us one more vehicle to work with Parks and Rec in an effective way to make it a more, I don't know how you create a better relationship so things happen, because we don't see the other side. We don't see what Parks and Rec has as its pulls and struggles. We don't know what he's being asked to do, you know, and that may help us understand, because she can come to us and say they can't do this because they don't have this person.
Yeah, we don't have the.
I think we might have a little bit of an insight. That might be a benefit to us in terms of moving
And
ahead.
then the trash receptacles there again, that might, if we are overseeing, is that something we might be able to get the city to help us for removal or taking care of the new trash receptacles?
Yeah, so they, again, same as the planners, become city property, and Parks and
Same
Rec
thing
does,
with
does
same thing
the
with trash
the
receptacles.
emptying and
So
refilling
we
and
buy them and they install them and they take care of them.
basically.
Okay, finishing up with the board member comments, were there any more there?
I have just one more question, and I promise I'll shut up. We do all of our advertising, it looks like, with Lee and Angie McVeigh. We're not doing anything with Nellie. Nellie has bigger stations and more listening. Why do we have all of our advertising, radio advertising with just Nellie? Or excuse me, with just McVeigh?
Because the BDL board has an agreement with McVeigh's only. So there's like a non-compete.
Do they give us, for X amount of dollars we spend, X amount of
One for one.
free and
Yep.
all of that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that something we put up for bid? Can we open that up for bid?
We did, and they had the best prices and the most coverage for their
That
stations.
answers my question, thank you.
All right, any other comments? Board? All right, the administrator. Administrator comments? All right.
Like I said, I'll put together some suggestions on what I think BDL can handle on their own to take it off of this work plan, and what I think BDL could use some help with before your guys' meeting in January, so that you have a little bit more background on the BDL side as well. I just kind of want to address some of the comments about, like Dennis mentioning Parks and Rec. This has been ongoing since the beginning of asking for help from the city. Asking different departments, and I get the same answer. We're low on staff, we don't have X, this is what's going on. The board has had insight, but also the ability to ask the city for help. They have the list of contractors, they have vetted people that could have done these projects, and it was at a standstill. So I just wanted to reiterate that as much as we've, and by we, I mean, you know, myself and my staff have tried to get some of these questions answered and some of the projects completed, it's been the same answer from the beginning. So I hope that in this change, that will also change, so that, you know, since the information is available and readily accessible, that there will be action versus when I have asked, we're here. So I just wanted to say that. I have definitely learned a lot more about BIDs and different districts that are available downtown, and the ability to kind of share that information with other downtowns, Coeur d'Alene, Moscow, Pullman, and try to figure out what worked, what didn't. So I'm really appreciative of that knowledge and the ability to be the administrator for this time. So I thank you guys for showing up. It does make a difference.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll move on to staff liaison comments.
I already said all my comments,
All of them?
besides, Corey and
January
board
meeting?
for January meeting.
And do we have to talk about next year's, who's replacing me? Because I'm out, right? I'm done 3 years.
You're just done with being the chair. So Tammy is our vice chair. So normally in a board situation, your
Succession.
vice chair would, as long as she is voted in by the group, would move into chair, and then you would elect a new vice chair. You can also choose to not vote in Tammy as your chair, and you can choose to vote for someone else as your chair. It's up to the board. But you do elect a new chair, because it is designated that chair serves 1 year and is elected at the first meeting in January.
Oh, at the first meeting in January. Okay, I thought it was this one. Okay,
No, in January.
okay.
Bummer. We gotta have
And
one more.
Mike, you're not.
Well, I just want to make
you're
sure we
not
got it
with
taken
us.
care of.
You didn't renew?
I did, maybe.
He did a little late, but the first, but the first council meeting in January is prior to the first board meeting in January. So as long as they approve you, you'll be good for January.
Okay. And the rest of us are all
Yeah, I know.
on still. Okay, just be different.
Yeah,
So
and they-
you and
So Dennis, Wendy, and Doug were reappointed
We were every 3 years.
at this council meeting on Monday, on the 11th.
Which is good to have consistency, to know what has happened so we can continue to move forward in a positive way. That's awesome. Okay, any other comments? Otherwise,
Madam Chair, can I please get Aquaria board members for the next?
Yeah, who's actually gonna show up?
should be good to go.
Nitty bitty unable to come in January.
January 11th.
What's the
Depends
date
on-
in January?
It
11th,
is the
11th.
11th.
Depends on surgery.
Dennis is me.
I might be iffy on that.
But I
too.
could probably do Zoom,
Okay.
but I don't
Well,
know. Pardon?
remodel.
He's got projects.
Okay, we should be good for January 11th then.
And then I guess the only other thing, so I had, in talking about the beacons, I had reached out to the city engineer about that, and I will invite him to the January meeting to give us some information.
Excellent.
I think that's all I got.
Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
A second. We're here.
Eventually you'll say it in unison.
Thank you, everybody.
Madam Chair,
Have a
can I
Merry
vote, please?
Christmas.
Oh, you have to vote.
Aye. All in favor, aye. Yes. Sorry. Opposed? Okay, now we can adjourn.
You're no fun, Don.
I know.